Hey everybody, well I'm Don and this is Robin Davie, not Sir Robin Knox Johnson, and we've done this a couple of times now, a couple of old blokes talking about the GGR, and my opinion will be totally different than his, and we'll probably disagree on everything, but I've got no idea what's going to happen. Robin hasn't seen what we're going to talk about, and I've just decided about in the last half hour, scribbled a few notes down on what we might go through. We'll probably try and do it again next Tuesday with a different slant. If you're actually in Les Sables d'Olonne or in France, we're doing a regular once a month briefing for the public and the media here in the office or in the media centre downstairs. And that's on Tuesday, for the first Tuesday of every month between 9 and 10. And Robin and I will be there, the whole team will be there, we'll be answering questions and so on. Yeah, that'll be fun.
We'll be there.
So what are you doing on your boat, by the way? Right now?
Oh, right now I'm in the fiberglass stuff again. It's we're getting ready to put the mast in, so we've got to rework the deck where the mast comes through the deck to make the new mast fit right and things like that. So
and the new mast is just over there.
And the new mast is just over there.
Yeah, I said that. Just still stealing my thunder. And so what we're leading into is Robin's mast is the one that Jean-Luc built, brand new, this, that, and the other, for the Round the World race. And we're going to do a live on that. So when you pull it out, we'll come over with the camera and we'll go through the whole rig. So we'll show you all the fittings and talk about all sorts of things. It'll be quite cool.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it'll be quite cool.
It's a darn good mast.
Yeah, so keep an eye out that for next week. Okay, I had an interesting question on the weekend from another person, and they were asking what type of person enters the Golden Globe race or does a solo circumnavigation. What do you need to do it? As in introvert, extrovert, or whatever. I answered it at the time on Saturday. What do you reckon? What's your take on it? What's the profile of a typical solo sailor setting out, to take on a challenge like that?
First and foremost, there isn't a specific. More than anything else, you've got to have the passion, the want, the desire, almost a desperate need to do it. If doing this is not your passion, you probably aren't going to get round.
That's amazing, eh? Because we haven't spoken about this, and my answer was nearly identical. The other thing I said, you've got to be incredibly selfish. You've got to be single-minded, focused. Nothing gets in the way, and that's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I was talking to somebody here in Sables d'Olonne. I mean, it was over a year ago when they were thinking of buying Yuku's boat, and we were talking about, and I kind of said it right there and then. You've got to be so darn selfish that, it ain't your wife's decision. It ain't anybody else's decision. It's got to be yours and yours alone. And Jean-Luc, was sat there at the time and he was nodding his head.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's cool. Oh, well, we agree on that. I confer. Okay, here's a good one. How many of the current entrants are going to finish the race? How many, not who.
Now you're putting me on the spot, aren't you?
No, not who, just how many, you think?
I know. And I thought at the time when I first heard about the race, and I thought maybe half will finish. Well, we're already virtually down to half. I think we're going to look at 4, 5 or 6. And okay. I wouldn't be at all surprised if it was only 4.
Wow.
I don't wish ill on anyone, and I hope every one of them gets around and gets to the finish. But there's a lot of Southern Ocean, a lot of storms yet to go, and a lot of things can happen to the boats.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I put it down to without even looking at the boats and the sailors. Just law of averages says that we're going to lose at least 2, or get 2 retirements between here and there. But who knows? I was saying I'd be very happy if half of the original starters finished. So we're similar but a little bit different. How do you the question was, how do you deal with solitude and cope with sleep? Like, what's your deal on solitude?
Well, let's deal with the sleep first. Sleep is tremendously important. I mean, when you actually look at the priorities of the race, your boat speed, keeping the boat moving is your obvious number one big priority.
Yeah.
Then your food and sleep, because your food and your sleep are what keep you going, because you've got to do everything. So sleep is terrifically important, and I just take sleeps at any time of the day and night that I feel like having a sleep. If I'm tired, it's like being hungry. If you're hungry, eat. If you're tired, sleep. It's that important.
Yeah, I'm the same. And in fact, I'll bring Mark Slats into this conversation because I just got off the phone from him. on his phone call, which is on SoundCloud. And he said at one stage this past week, it was really messy stuff, not giant and scary, but very messy. And he just wanted to keep going. So he said he hardly slept for 3 days. And then they got a break in the weather, and he said he slept 16 hours straight virtually. He'd get up, he'd go down for a few hours, get up, check, straight back to bed. He went 16 hours. And apparently Tommy's sleeping every chance he gets, because they say whenever he gets on the radio, he's just woken up or just going to sleep.
That's right. Well, I certainly can't sign on to this I was up for 3 days kick at all.
Yeah.
I don't see any value in it or any point in it. You need to be sleeping often in little bits. You need to get as much sleep as you feel you need. And I can recall when we started the BOC race out of Charleston, I was that tired that within half an hour of the start, I'd gone and had a 10-minute sleep.
Yeah, I must admit,
Sleep is that important.
Yeah, you know when you need it too, and you got to keep it on an average, because if you get really tired, it's really hard to catch up again. You're better off going a little bit down, a little bit up, a little bit down, a little bit up, rather than going all the way down.
Yeah.
Because then it's just nightmare trying to catch
up.
up.
And you never know when things are going to go really wrong, you don't want to be tired at that moment, if you look at your kind of tiredness or you'd love to be here really, but you don't want to be down there. You've got to try and keep that level at a level playing field, So sure, you're always tired, but you're never exhausted. Never let yourself get exhausted.
Yeah, the other thing interesting, there's a lot of people that be watching this and say, geez, how can you sleep when there's no one on watch and things like that? But you get over that. You have a lot of alarms, and you have radar detector and AIS detectors, all this sort of stuff, and you work out a risk assessment. You say to yourself, well, no shipping lanes, averages are, it's okay, it's daylight, I'm cool, just go for it, and you just do it.
I mean, when you're in an area of shipping, you may only be. I go for 10 and 15 minute sleeps, and I've got my alarms that are guaranteed to wake me up.
I used to give blind VHF calls as well. I just say all ships, radio check or something like that, just to see if there's anyone within VHF range.
I thought you were.
And then I'd go down.
I thought you were going to say, "Hey, all ships, this is Don. I'm about to have a clip."
No, not quite.
Sleep time.
Not quite, but just see if anyone responds. I mean, they probably wouldn't anyway. But you just do everything you can to get over it. Okay, now here's an interesting subject. I've got to get a lot of this and stuff. Not so much about what boat you'd choose, but a budget to do the GGR, right? There's been, you can spend a huge amount if you want to.
You could.
But you don't have to. This is So I'm looking at what I'd call, just interested in your opinion, because I wrote a piece about this about 9 months ago or something. It's on the newsletter. It's called an inspiration or whatever. I forget. It's in the newsletters there. Inspiring since 1968. A picture of Istvan's boat there. Yeah. And I said that you could buy a nice boat, right, and do a sensible refit for about €75,000, and then all of the race required equipment, like all your extra safety gear and satellite phones, all those things you need, runs out at just a little bit over 20 grand, €20,000. Then you've got an entry fee of about €10,000. It's 16,000 Australian dollars.
Yeah.
And that, so the prices you've got there then is about 105. It doesn't include your wet weather gear, sextants, and charts and so on. So there's probably another 5 grand worth of bits, right? And this is on the assumption that you're going to spend at least a year of your time doing the refit and then go around. So about €110,000. That's what I'm saying. You could make a sensible approach to this event. What's your take on it? On the hop, he knows nothing about this question.
Oh gosh, it's how long is a piece of string? How much money have you got? Yeah. And one rule of thumb that I've always come up with, when somebody says, well, how much does it cost you? More than I can afford.
Yeah. Well, that's true too.
That is the nature of the beast, and from my point of view, I specifically wanted a boat that I considered to be potentially competitive, and I've had to pay the price for it. So it's cost me a little more than that, but bearing in mind the vast amount of work I've done to my boat, if I'd had to pay yard rates and so on to do that refit, I could certainly be adding another 150,000 euros or pounds to what I've
absolutely.
spent. So
Absolutely.
I'm certainly above your budget, but
Yeah.
I'm not ridiculously far above it.
That's where the big money comes. As soon as you start paying someone £50 an hour
Yeah.
to work on your boat,
Yeah.
you just go nuts. You know, you'll spend 4 guys for a month, you'll spend £30,000. And
Well,
a month with 4 guys, not a lot of work.
Yeah, and I heard that somebody was up around 2,400 hours of paid man hours
well, I know
in a boatyard.
Yep,
So,
you know, I talked to all the entrants, and some of them have spent, you know, one spent like about £170,000 just on the refit, having after they bought the boat ready to go. Now, you could buy and I'm not suggesting any boat's better than the other, but you can buy there's a really nice Tradewind 35 at the moment for sale in the UK.
Sure.
It's for sale. You'd buy it for £32,000, right? It's really nice. You would easily manage that with a £30,000, £35,000 refit. You know, so you're still in the £75,000 thing. I've got no idea what budgets Loic had, right, when he did his boat. True Corinthian, he's the low end of the budget.
I think his budget is fairly low.
Yeah,
and I mean, he probably,
Way less than
if he put his budget on the table or what he's actually spent, it's probably pretty darn close to what you've
I reckon it's lower
got.
than that.
It may well be lower.
Yeah,
yes.
you get a Nick 32 for Nick 32 for 20 grand, no problem.
Yes,
And you don't need a lot of structural work. You know, you need to rip everything apart. You need a good rig, and because he's got original rig and all that sort of stuff as well.
Right.
So anyway, it's an interesting point. But the thing is, then when it's all over, when it's finished, you can either fall in love with the boat and keep it as a home, or you can sell it.
This is true.
And you'll usually get back what you paid for the boat. The money you spent on the refit's all gone, but you get it back. So I did a quick calculation. It's sort of going somewhere between £40,000 and £50,000 max, right, to actually do the race after you've sold the boat. The thing, if you do it sensibly, you know, and do it yourself and treat it as your own personal adventure.
Yeah, if you do it on a budget. It is a budget, and there's a lot of budgets that are way higher.
Because I saw one journalist reporting you need like £400,000 and stuff to do this race. They're just crazy figures. So you know, because one of the essence of it is to have like an open class where all boats are similar. And they're proving now that, I mean, how's the middle fleet? Biscay 36, Buddy, Suhaili replica, Rustler 36, all vying for position behind Jean-Luc, of course.
That's right. That's right.
And so the boats are all doing pretty well.
Yeah, it's not. It's more the person than the boat.
Yeah,
is where the result lies, in the person, not the boat.
Yeah. Also, that budget does include all the fun parts like travelling to France and coming to the conferences that we have, and you know, sort of living here for a few weeks before the start and all that sort of thing. That's all extras, but that's the holiday time. Yeah, right. Sure. No pressure. Anyway, okay, so I had an interesting conversation last night with Mike Golding, prominent sailor in the UK. He was following the sound, you know, the telephone conversations, right, which we put him up on SoundCloud for people to listen to, and he was saying, crikey, boring interview, you know, why don't you ask him proper questions and try and ask them, you know, how they're really feeling deep inside and all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I had to explain to them, I said, that's not what those calls are. They're actually a safety check call, and we're sort of stretching the rules of the GGR a little bit by putting them up on SoundCloud and letting people listen, but we know the followers get it. And I've been lobbied by media regularly saying to me, why don't you interview them? You know, have a set structure with all these things you can ask them, and we can do it. We could never do that, and I'm just bringing it up because I get your opinion. The reason is that it's about the isolation, and it's about the whole subject of they don't really have satellite phones. You know, the satellite phone's for safety.
It's a safety tool.
Yeah, and at the moment we turn it into an interview per se, we lose that claim to fame or claim to be different, and so that's why we do it that way. But what do you think on that whole issue? Do you think we've got the balance right, or is it too far one way or the other?
Well, I mean, Mike Golding is correct to start with. Mike did the BOC in 1998 when I was doing it as well. So Mike's done a lot of these races, the Vaughan races. He's been a terrifically successful competitor for years. So, you know, his views are, you know, pretty switched on. But I've thought exactly the same thing. But then when you actually rationalise, this is not an interview. This is competitors saying what they want to say.
Absolutely.
And it's in most respects, it's got to come without prompting from whoever's taking the call. My view, I think I would have twigged to this pretty quickly, and I certainly will be doing it in the next race, when I get the chance to do it, is, I'll come loaded with my hit list of what I'm going to talk about. If I'm getting on the radio for, on the satellite phone for 10 minutes, I'm going to have 10 minutes of something to talk about. And, as I said, when I arrived here in Sablé d'Olonne a month ago, and I'm going to learn enough French to be able to deliver some of that in French and for the French to be able to understand me.
Now you're making it hard for me.
Absolutely, that's right.
I've got to do the same.
You've got to do the same. So, I'll know what's happened in the last week, and I'm just going to talk for 6 or 8 minutes, about what's happening on the boat.
Yeah, so, exactly right. I mean, it's something we've got to protect fiercely, and that's the original concept of the race. We're not pushing the comms, but once a week with the safety call, we've got to use the phone and all that stuff. So it's cool.
And maybe, and I don't know what the briefings were before the race started about these calls, was that the competitors should have been told, come up with your list of what you want to talk about when you get on the phone and talk.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard for us too. I mean, when Christoph and I answer the phone, often the entrants are trying to draw news and information from us, and we don't allow any of that. They've got to do it all themselves. So anyway, and I doubt whether it'll change, but we certainly get lobbied heavily, just the same as we did. So many people for years wanted satellite, live satellite vision and satellite photos. We want to know what's going on. We have to fight that because this race is really different, and it's back to the 60s, and it's tough. If we're
going back to satellite phones and all the video stuff that that you see in the Vendée that comes off, it's fantastic stuff. But if we're going
for
back
9 months, they get bored.
Well, that ain't our race, and it ain't ever going to be our race.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
If it is going to change that way, then I'm certainly probably going to be asking myself, do I really want to do this?
I have to say I'm really happy with the balance at the moment. The little tweets, the satellite tweets, once a day from all the entrants, that's cool. Once a week phone call, that's cool. The live tracker, that works.
It's original. It's compared to the Vendée, compared to other races, it's original.
Absolutely.
It's we've got to do our own thing. We can't do this race on the back of the Vendée or any other race.
No, true.
We've got to do our own thing and create our own.
That's what it is. It is what it is, as Popeye says. I am what I am, and I is what I is, or whatever. Anyway,
something like that.
Hey, listen, we're just wrapping up now. One interesting part about phone conversation. This whole thing once again about furlers and non-furlers and stuff. Talking to Mark this afternoon, he didn't want to get off the phone again. Went for a long time. It's a great call. He's a great character, is Mark. But he's offering now other descriptions of what's going on. And he says, the sail bags aren't big enough. I can't always put the sails in it. I've got to just stuff them down below, and that brings water down below. You've still got a dry bunk, but it's all those other little things about, sort of handling sails instead of furling.
It really is all the little things that make the difference in having a good race and a really good race. But no, I detest sail bags because you can't get the sail into it unless it's a great big sausage bag with a zip. And then you've got to drag this darn thing down below into in my case, into the fore cabin. And the hatch is only so big. So it's always a struggle getting sails up, on deck and off deck.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel for him a bit now. But he brought up another one that I hadn't even thought about before. He's worried about his halyards. He's got some issue in the mast, which is making the halyards slow and hard to pull and this, that and the other. So I forgot, I only changed sails twice all the way around the world in the BOC, because it's on a furler. So your halyards aren't going up and down. Mark's halyards up and down every race. So he's saying when he gets to Hobart, he's going to actually pull the halyards out of the mast and put them all externally. He'll probably anchor up somewhere during the gate and just work, get it all done. So lots of little issues there. Eh?
Well, and a lot of this comes to light if you're sailing the miles before the race even starts.
That's true. He was rowing across the Atlantic. I admire Mark for what he did.
Absolutely.
He was like many. Better to go with what you got and how you are rather than not go at all.
That's right. That's very true. But You know, if you've really done the miles, you'll have sorted out your halyards and what's going on inside the mast. You'll have inspected your halyards so often to know that there's chafe going on somewhere there, or rubbing or whatever. So, you know,
that'd make an interesting report. We've never done it. Do a little check or analysis of the entrants that were here. How many really were prepared on time? It's probably very few. Jean-Luc and probably a handful. Everyone else was still building boats. And
even Jean-Luc would probably have liked another day because he just had a little job still left to do. But
exactly.
most of us do tend to leave without every single thing being done. There's just, you know, it's a bit like, how much money did you spend? More than I wanted to. How much time, you know, have you got? Not enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably the two most common things.
Too true. Anyway, the fun part now in the races is that fleet behind Jean-Luc.
Yep.
You know, Tommy and Dooku and Gregor, they're having a great rap, you know. And Susie's down the back. Susie's trying to hunt down the middle fleet. It's going to be tough for her because you've got to jump that weather system and it's impossible. But now, of course, Istvan and Tapio, side by side, they're trying to have a go at Susie.
They're trying to catch Susie. Well, you know, and good on them.
Exactly.
They're all going to, you know...
They're all having fun.
Hopefully the winds will settle down into strong westerlies for them, and they'll, you know, make some great progress to Hobart.
Igor's having a birthday party, and I'm not sure what Mark Sinclair's doing, Captain Coconut. He's on holidays. He's on a roll. Anyway, that's anything you want to add for Thingo?
No. But hopefully by next week we'll be putting the mast in.
Absolutely.
So we'll.
I'm looking forward to that because we'll maybe using the same mast maker for the Joshua boats.
Yeah.
You know, so that'd be cool. Okay, that's all there really is. So just a quick one, and we'll see you again next week.
See you next week.
For him and me.
Is that it?